Ian Bremmer, Every Nation for Itself, Winners and Losers in a GZeroWorld. In a world grappling with extraordinary domestic problems, Ian Bremmer's Every Nation for Itself, Winners and Losers in a GZeroWorld takes a deep dive into the shifting global landscape. The book examines how internal challenges have made even powerful countries reluctant to assume international leadership roles. Bremmer analyses the declining cooperation among nations, the impact of protectionist policies on global challenges, and the odds of various countries thriving or floundering in a GZeroWorld. Brace yourself for an insightful exploration of the consequences of a leaderless world and the roles the United States and China might play in shaping our future.
Leadership void in a troubled world. When faced with overwhelming domestic challenges, countries often become hesitant to lead on a global scale, yet crucial international problems demand united solutions. Both developed and emerging powers find themselves grappling with significant domestic concerns, from massive debts and aging populations to economic development and social security. Amidst these struggles, countries are reluctant to step up and take the reins on urgent international issues such as climate change. The Copenhagen Climate Summit highlights this unwillingness to lead, with neither old nor new powers prepared to take responsibility for addressing future pollution. Currently, no single nation or alliance possesses the political and economic clout needed to create the change our world desperately requires, leading to grave consequences on a global scale. Food protectionism's global consequences. Our interdependent world faces pressing challenges that can damage international relations and hinder global progress. A prime example is food protectionism, where nations prioritize their own food security and self-interest at the expense of cooperative efforts. Adverse weather conditions driven by climate change cause poor harvests, leading to soaring food prices. As observed from 2007 to 2008, elevated prices of corn, wheat, and rice resulted in countries like Russia and Argentina limiting exports to maintain domestic supplies. This type of protectionism hinders economic growth, weakens diplomacy, and obstructs international cooperation. Import barriers can discourage competition, hampering innovative solutions that boost yields and affordability. A case in point is the E. coli incident in Germany, where false accusations against Spain strained diplomatic relations and led to Russia banning fresh vegetable imports from the European Union. Such scenarios illustrate the dangers of a GZeroWorld, where governments prioritize self-interest over collaboration, threatening our collective ability to overcome global challenges. Thriving in a GZeroWorld. As we continue into a world lacking in international leadership, the economic and political landscape will shift, breeding winners and losers. Countries like Brazil and Turkey that can cultivate independent opportunities and establish multiple robust relationships without relying on a single ally will thrive in this G0 landscape. In contrast, nations such as Japan and Mexico, which have historically depended on the United States, may struggle in an era where Western-led globalization loses power. Ultimately, the ability to adapt to a leaderless world will determine success or failure during these turbulent times, until a new era of global leadership emerges. In this increasingly uncertain global landscape, countries that prioritize self-sufficient opportunities and strike diverse, productive partnerships will emerge as the victors in the G0 world. Brazil and Turkey serve as prime examples of pivot states. Brazil, once heavily reliant on the United States for trade, expanded and diversified its partnerships, with China becoming its most significant trading partner in 2009. Similarly, Turkey stands as an invaluable asset to both the United States and the European Union and boasts trade relations with Israel unmatched by any other country in the Muslim world. On the opposite end of the spectrum, countries like Japan and Mexico may suffer setbacks as they continue to operate as if the world follows a US-led unified market. Japan's military and economic protection relies heavily on its ties with the United States, and as China's regional influence expands, this reliance could prove detrimental. Likewise, Mexico's prosperity is heavily hinged on its neighboring superpower, drawing substantial income from oil exports and U.S. tourism. The global shift from Western-led globalization over the past 30 years has dramatically altered the playing field. The GZeroWorld demands that nations develop the agility to navigate a leaderless international landscape. While this era of uncertainty is undoubtedly challenging, the very problems it poses necessitate the emergence of new global leadership solutions, bringing the G0 period to an eventual close. Future of US-China cooperation. The future of global leadership hinges on the United States and China's ability to cooperate in the face of global challenges. Two scenarios emerge from this relationship: a G2 world where only the United States and China hold significant influence, and a G20 world where multiple nations exercise power cooperatively, brought together by a shared/common threat. These scenarios beg the question of how long such cooperation will last, and what happens if the US and China ultimately fail to work together. The fate of international leadership after the G0 era depends on whether or not the United States and China choose to collaborate. One potential outcome is the rise of a G2 world, in which these two nations cooperate and other countries have limited influence. The interconnected relationship of the US and China, as America's largest client and creditor, has driven 40% of global growth between 1998 and 2007, solidifying the power they hold together. Given this circumstance, nations like France and Germany would reluctantly yield to their authority if they failed to maintain their own influence. An alternative outcome is the emergence of a G20 world, where countries besides the US and China also hold sway. In this scenario, nations work in harmony to address a singular, significant threat that impacts each of them profoundly. An example is a large-scale cyber attack destabilizing power grids across countries, prompting them to unite in pursuit of a solution. The likelihood of such situations remains possible, but uncertainty circles the duration of such collaboration. Once the imminent threat dissipates, joint efforts could dissolve along with it. While these scenarios paint different pictures of our future, what remains unknown is the consequences of the United States and China failing to cooperate. Could this bring about entirely different scenarios? The implications of their division will be explored further in the concluding portion. The modern Cold War scenarios. If China and the United States fail to cooperate, there are two possible outcomes. The first scenario resembles a modern Cold War, with weaker nations aligning with either China or the US, creating a tense balance. Despite a significant military, economic and political power, both the US and China remain commercially interconnected, and a conflict would damage both countries' economies, unlike the original Cold War where the US and USSR were less interdependent. In the second scenario, a world of regional powers emerges as other states stay strong while China and the US refuse to collaborate. Regional leaders like Brazil in South America and Germany in Europe would address global issues such as greenhouse gas emissions, but only on a transnational scale, disregarding the activities of other regional powers.
In conclusion, Every Nation for Itself offers a captivating analysis of a G0 world, where countries focus on their interests, often causing difficulties in international cooperation. Ian Bremmer shines a light on the possibilities and complexities of various scenarios involving the United States and China, which will play essential roles in deciding our global future. This captivating book provides a unique perspective on the present geopolitical landscape, and ponders on how countries that adapt to this temporary leaderless world will find a path to survival. As you reflect on the significant takeaways, ponder the question: will nations eventually find common ground to solve global problems, or will we continue down a path of fractured alliances and disconnected leadership on the world stage?